First up, someone that's very well known in the OSM community, at least to me. I think we met in Portland in 2012. Yes. Yeah. So Bibiana McHugh, she's with TriMet's, and they have done a lot with OpenStreetMap for a long time, and she's going to give an update about that.
Awesome. First, I want to thank all of you community mappers out there. Round of applause. Okay, I am going to talk fast. I don't know if we'll have time for questions afterwards, but you know, I'll be around for the next couple days for questions. So just to give an overview of where we've been and where we're going in alignment with the slideshow. All of these things are progressive. You can't do one without the other, and it all started with GTFS and working with Google and developing that standard. And then the developers were able to develop maps and trip planning applications, and now it's worldwide voluntary adoption. And Open Trip Planner is one of the apps that it facilitated. Because of GTFS, we were able to develop the first multimodal trip planner. And that's when we initially started to use OpenStreetMap, and I'll get into that in a little bit. Then we went into, we received an FTA Mod Sandbox grant that was somewhat significant, and that moved us very quickly into the mobility space and being able to provide mobility as a service to our customers. And now we are working on our regional trip planner, and it's expanding into, we're using GTFS Flex and GTFS Fares. Also bringing in other transit agencies. And again, this is another example of, you know, not being able, the standards have to come first. The standards really have to support the movement and the technology in the industry. Our OpenStreetMap program started in 2011. And we've been working with the OpenStreetMap community very closely ever since. I think a lot of government agencies are, you know, kind of hesitant. We don't have any control over it, but there's lots of ways to monitor and validate the data. Working with the OpenStreetMap community, I can say since 2011, we've never had any issues, and we work closely with them. Let's see. And today, OpenStreetMap powers pretty much all of our transit applications, all of our ITS applications. Our init CAT-AVL, our turn restrictions and driving directions on our MDTs in the vehicles, our paratransit system, our HASTA scheduling system, again, our multimodal trip planner, and we use it for base maps for all of our mapping purposes and GIS data analysis. Why OpenStreetMap? It all comes down to the requirements, and you'll hear me talking about requirements and use cases quite a bit. But the initial requirements was we needed a seamless geographic coverage. If we wouldn't have chosen OpenStreetMap back then, today we would not be able to expand into 7 counties, expand throughout the state. We also wanted a routable network. Centerline files really don't support true multimodal routing and networking. We wanted something that was cost-effective and affordable. We wanted more controls over the updates. We did not want to purchase something and have it updated, you know, every year. We wanted something, again, that worked with Open Trip Planner and could take advantage of the routing superiority in that application, and then the open source policy alignment. This is kind of an example of why we went with it. You have your traditional centerline file, and this is in comparison with OpenStreetMap. And you can see not only is there more line work, but there's so much intelligence behind there. For instance, this is especially important for routing and for transit routing. So for instance, if you're approaching an intersection, a bus can turn right, pedestrian, a person can. However, vehicles can't. So you can't build that intelligence into a flat file. I kind of compare the two and use the analogy of, a Excel spreadsheet to a relational database. I also want to say that not every data set should belong in OpenStreetMap. There are things like GTFS. There's APIs for real-time information. There's geocoders. So not every data set should be in OpenStreetMap. And OpenTripPlanner uses open data to build a routable network. Not only does it use GTFS, it uses OpenStreetMap, and it also uses the National Elevation Data Set. That really helps with people with accessibility issues, even bikers. So the OSM improvements, it was a 3-month time period for college students, 3-county Portland area. It went very fast. I mean, I think a lot of agencies think, oh my gosh, we can't afford this. It went very fast using QGIS. We used local data, centerline file, and it was very easy to just snap to the line work. I think I've already touched on this, but just a lot of the OpenStreetMap concerns that we had initially as well. They all proved to be wrong. It was so fast to update the data. There's so many more eyes on the data. It's crowdsourced, it can't be trusted. Again, we found that working with the OpenStreetMap community, it's a good community. We're all working in the best interest of the common good. And you actually have a lot more control over the data. In the Mod Sandbox grant that I mentioned earlier, part of that was not only developing out the OpenTripPlanner, but also developing an open source geocoder. Why Peleus? Why did we want an open source geocoder? Again, it all comes down to the requirements. We wanted, again, seamless geographic coverage, something that was cost effective and affordable. We wanted control over the data and the edits, which is, again, especially when you're doing trip planner. You want trip planning, you want more and you need more accurate locations. Again, the high degree of accuracy and reverse geocoding. There's so many more great things about Peleus. And Julian is over here if you want to say hello. It was great working with that group. And we just did this in 2022. We're always testing it and validating it and comparing it to other geocoders, and it far surpasses anything out there. Why open source? Again, requirements. You have more control over it. It fosters innovation and competition. And again, more eyes on data, more eyes on the code. And then also government agencies, I think it's a more responsible approach to put in your shared resources towards something that everyone can contribute. Right now, OpenTripPlanner is used worldwide in countries such as Norway and Finland, and so we've got community support growing, worldwide. And then also, I would say there's lower risks. Just like with the Peleus geocoder, a lot of applications I'm sure all of you have seen some of them where they're venture capitalist funded, and then the model changes, or they're bought out. Your maintenance cost and your fees go up. Well, there's lower risks, I would say, with open source software. So right now, again, it's a very exciting time, especially in transportation, and I would say the OpenStreetMap world. But emerging technologies, I don't need to talk about AI here to you guys, but emerging data too. Locus is an LBS application, a data set and application that was developed by Cambridge Systematics. It captures walking, biking, and vehicle data. We're also able to separate the vehicle from the transit data. So for the first time, people are able to look at not just riders, but non-riders. ODX, just like the Charlie card here, when you tap, it goes into a system, and we're able to determine with algorithms where someone taps on, where they tap off, and their transfer. This is important because it's very difficult to do onboard surveys now after COVID, and also they're very, very expensive. This is much more cost effective. You're not looking at a snapshot in time, but you're looking at travel patterns across years. So again, what does it look like for customers in OpenStreetMap? In transportation, we're looking at managing not just vehicles. We're looking at managing a whole ecosystem beyond transit, pulling in weather, elevation, local data, building footprints, and that gives you a broader view over the region, and it's providing an ability and abilities that we haven't had before, such as emergency management and planning. So I think I'll close with, OpenStreetMap, just like GTFS, voluntary worldwide adoption. Just think about it. That's just unheard of. And why? Both of them are open. So I'm going to leave you with one slide here. Public-private collaboration. None of this could have happened. OpenStreetMap couldn't have happened. Open source software, the Paleus geocoder, none of this could have happened without public-private collaboration. And I'm here to make sure that we continue with strong collaborations with the private sector. So, thank you.
We can take a couple questions if there are any.
Oh, okay.
Folks, thanks, Bibiana. That was great. I love that this is still ongoing, after all these years. I'm really curious to see if there's any questions for Bibiana from the crowd. If not, I have one and get time. So doing all this, have you learned a lot of lessons? Have you been able to share? Are there other agencies that are interested in similar work, and were you able to share best practices, lessons learned with them?
Yes, thank you for reminding me. There's a final report. We have actually several final reports, and the first one, oh God, I can't remember even the name of it. The Metro Travel Options Grant. I believe it's also on our website under TriMet.org/mod, but it has very, very detailed instructions. I had grad students working with me, and it's like a grad paper for other transit agencies to follow. So, okay.
Very cool. Thank you. Thanks, Bibiana. If there are no questions, we can move to the next speaker. Thanks.